Hey guys, Mike here. So today's cult classic review is 1999's Being John Malkovich, starring John Cusack as Craig Schwartz. In Being John Malkovich, a struggling puppeteer who gets himself a new job discovers a tunnel which allows him to go inside the head of the actor John Malkovich. And so we have Being John Malkovich. So guys, this is another movie in this series that before reviewing it and watching it today, I had not seen it before. And honestly, I had no idea what this one was about. And I found this movie's never come up in conversation, so I didn't know whether this was going to be good or whether it was going to be bad. So I went in with pretty much no expectations for this one. So, what did I think of it? Being John Malkovich goes through so many shifts in tone. It starts off being quite comedic and then it gets a bit more grim as it goes on to eventually. It's just basically a straight up horror movie. About halfway through watching this, I just knew this could not possibly have a happy ending. Because with pretty much everything happening to these characters, there's no way that this could end well. And honestly, the ending that Being John Malkovich actually goes with is actually much worse than I thought it was going to be. Not worse as in bad, just worse as in worse. I gotta say that Being John Malkovich is definitely one of the more unique stories I've ever seen. I thought that initially, when he found the John Malkovich tunnel, it was going to be very metaphorical, or it was going to be all inside his head and no one was going to believe him. But Being John Malkovich goes for a bit more of a literal take on it, where Craig Schwartz gets, like, everyone he can in on this thing. And he and his partner start to actually make money off this thing, which is just horrible in so many different levels. But beneath all the comedy and beneath all the horror and the actual invasion of privacy in this whole thing, I'd say Being John Malkovich is ultimately about identity crisis, because pretty much every single one of these characters in Being John Malkovich just doesn't really like who they are. Craig wants to be a better puppeteer, so he uses John Malkovich to achieve that goal. His wife wants to be a completely different person, so she uses John Malkovich to that end. And there are just so many other people in this who just hate who they are and they just want an escape from themselves. And identity crisis is definitely something that everyone has struggled with in one way or another in their lives. And I just love the way that Being John Malkovich portrays that. But I would say that Being John Malkovich is one that you just kind of have to go with, because it barely explains how this actually happens. It does have a couple of loopholes and a couple of gaps in logic. But honestly, if you're willing to just go along for the ride, I think you'll enjoy this one. So guys, would I consider Being John Malkovich a personal cult classic, and would I recommend that you guys should see it? I really liked Being John Malkovich, definitely a lot more than I initially thought I would. It's strangely funny, it's got decent acting in it, it messes with quite a lot of interesting concepts, and it's quite enjoyable for what it is. And I would definitely put this as one of my favourite movies in this cult classic series. But as for putting this one as a personal favourite, I don't think I'd necessarily put this one in that list. Don't get me wrong, this is still a good film, I just don't think it really cracked my personal best list. But as for recommending you guys to see it, this is one that I probably wouldn't recommend to everyone, because though it's quite literal at a lot of points, in some points it's very figurative and it does mess with a lot of odd concepts that may not grab a lot of people. So honestly, if you're willing to give this one a chance, I'd say watch it and I think you'll enjoy it. But if you're not willing to kind of go along for the ride, then I'd say give this one a pass. But personally, I would say give Being John Malkovich the time of day. Okay guys, that's my cult classic review of Being John Malkovich. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Whatever you think, drop it in the comments below. Until next time, I've been Michael. See ya.